that clapping was for the video. You know, if you give a talk and people clap before the talk, it's a bit like going to church. And when you go to church, you know, you have faith, hope, and charity. So if somebody claps before your talk, it's faith. We have faith that he or she will give a good talk. Now, if somebody claps during your talk, it's hope. Dear Lord, I hope the son of a gun will shut up soon. And if you clap afterwards, of course, it's charity. You know, I've been looking at the list, and I don't know where exactly I am. I got Coleman's, and Blackburn's, and Carter's, and Colley's, and Cochrane. I could be giving a talk in the west coast of Ireland or somewhere in Scotland. And then we have Mays and Sloane's and so on. So welcome to Ireland. So, because at some stage you guys probably came from Ireland. What do you think of this place? Pretty good, eh? Apparently this is the first time that they have used this for a function. And I don't know where Holly is, but you did good, girl. So, not exactly sure why you came out. It could be that there was a free lunch, or it could be that you're looking for some information, or you have some questions. But you know, there's an old phrase which says you take the road less traveled. And when we started to work in Pikeville and Pike County in eastern Kentucky, we were very much taking the road less traveled. And there's another phrase which says, go with those people who celebrate you, not with those people who tolerate you. And I have to say that since we've come into Pike County and into eastern Kentucky, a big thank you, because you guys have truly celebrated us rather than tolerate us, and you want something to happen. SOAR. We have our new, where's Jared? A new guy in charge of SOAR. Don't you think there ought to be a law? And maybe the judge can pass this law. Somebody who's 32 or 30 shouldn't be getting a job like that. How dare he get that job when he is 30 or 32? I don't care about your talent. I don't care about all those things. There's a law. And you get to be my age, you say that's a darn good law. I want to share with you some things about Alltech, who we are, what we do, and then we'll open it for questions. My wife and I started Alltech in 1980. Funny accents. Bankers weren't exactly open to us. Not that they weren't friendly. They were very friendly. They didn't give us any money, but they were still very friendly. And I guess when you look at what has happened to our business, it's a testament to what can happen in Kentucky. And it's a testament to what can happen if you have entrepreneurship. How many of you guys out there are women? Some of you look undecided. So I'm going to ask you a question again. How many of you out there are ladies? And you're not quite sure? She's going, maybe. So I don't know if you realize it, but Alltech is actually called after a lady. ALL are the initials of our daughter, Aoife Louise Lyons. And Aoife was 6 at the time, and our son was 3. And our son was all bent out of shape that the company was now going to be called after his sister. And his mom said, Mark, what's your color? And Mark said, well, I like the browns and blacks and so forth. And she said, the colors will be yours. At 3 years old, he was easy to convince. He's still easy to convince. Not me convincing him, but his mum convincing him. Now, where's my friend with the slides? Okay. So this, go back, please. So this is our corporate headquarters. And I can tell you that I had zero, nada, nothing to do with the design of the corporate headquarters. And I can tell you I've had zero, nada, not quite, to do with the design of our home. A man has to be prepared to stand up for what he believes in. Don't you think? I mean, Jerry, you got to do it. Yeah. And so when push came to shove, I said no to my wife. No. There would be none. Beige pool table. Pool tables are green. And Deirdre said, well, but the whole room is designed around this beige. I said, no. So I stand, Miriam, in front of you as a man vindicated. We have a green pool table in our basement. But this is our corporate headquarters. So when people see this and look at it in Kentucky, frankly, they're surprised. They're surprised to see something like this. They're surprised to see a biotech company, natural biotech. We don't do genetic engineering, right in the heart of Kentucky. But they're equally delighted because Kentucky is not, shall I say, challenging to people. It has a feel for it. I mean, what would you like to say? I'm from Illinois or I'm from finger-licking Kentucky. Kentucky Fried Chicken. And so the name Kentucky is terribly important to us. And the hills of Kentucky are terribly important to us from the point of view of our marketing. We're number 10 in our area, which is animal nutrition in the world. And we're the only private company in that group. And we're the only company who's growing at the rate of 20 to 30% per annum. We're in, and we don't like spelling. Do we? But what do you mean you never noticed? We've got to change that. And we're growing and or croning, or however you pronounce it. And we're 1 billion, and as you guys around here would say, we're fixing to do 4 to 5. And we're going to do it. And we're going to do it very quickly because we have an incredible team. You don't need to block it out. It's done. So well done. Let's go back to croning. It's not much better than grow. I mean, anybody can grow. Sylvia, how do I put? We're still croning. Okay, let's move on. Okay, we're in 128 countries. And the reason we're in 128 countries is that we're gypsies. We're tinkers. We're travelers, and the Irish and the Scots have always been travelers. And so almost from the beginning, we were an international company. You name it, I've just about been there. I have not been to Israel. My wife has been to Israel. She keeps saying this is the one place that she's been to that I haven't been to. But we've been basically everywhere we go. Last week, I'm at the point now I don't tell people where I was. But last week we went all the way through Latin America. And to see the excitement that our people have in Latin America, in Colombia, in Venezuela, in Brazil, when I tell them that we're going to do what we're going to do in Pikeville is amazing. It's like it's theirs and so forth. And they're watching and they want to know when's it going to start. That's the essence of a private company. And that's the essence of what we do. Now, where's my buddy gone? Yeah. We have 3 places in Kentucky: Nicholasville, Winchester, and Springfield. And each of these places came to us, with the exception of our headquarters. It came to us because people said, we want you to take over this facility. It happened in Springfield. The Kerry company was moving out, and they said, the state said, would we take it over? Incidentally, not with grants and so forth, but would you take it over because we want to keep this technology here. We have a plant in Winchester, which is one of only 2 in the world. And they're producing what we call omega-3 fatty acids. They're what makes you smart. Most of us don't take enough of it. Some of us don't take any of it. But there's only one of 2 plants in the world. And we're proposing to double, triple, quadruple that particular plant. Why? Because the market is there. And why? Because we go to the market in those 128 countries. But Kentucky is our home. We work with virtually every university in the state in different ways. For example, Kentucky State University has fantastic aquaculture system. And we've been working with them for maybe 10, 15 years. University of Kentucky, of course, is right there beside us. We're starting to work with Pikeville. And indeed, the University of Pikeville is one of the main reasons that we are here. The governor and the current president, one of the main reasons that we are here. Because again, back to that, go with people who celebrate you rather than people who tolerate you. But you name it, we're doing something with them. Murray State on their equine program. Transy, we have a program which we call Science Made Simple. It stopped for a few years. Now the current president wants to start it. And basically what that is, having meetings like this where we explain in simple layman's terms what Ebola is all about, what science is all about. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. So why are we here? Well, first of all, we're here. Okay? We're now going to discover why we're here. We're checking the spelling, guys. We're here because of this man. And unfortunately, he's not here. He's up in Cleveland. He's doing well. But we're here because he said, we want you here. We're going to help you come here. And he did. And showed us the university. And showed us the possibilities of what we could do. We're here. These are called pregnant pauses. And they're just meant to keep you awake and keep me on my toes, okay? I think he's checking the spelling.
You can always make it a
Let me tell you a story. Isn't that what the Irish do? Alltech is all about entrepreneurship, okay? And entrepreneurship and businesses and so forth. And on my mum's side, they were coopers for years and years and years, barrel makers. And so when we went out into business on our own in 1980, I called my mum up. We had 2 little kids. And I said to my mum, we're going into business on my own. She didn't say good luck. She didn't say well done. She didn't say be careful. What do you think she said? David, what'd she say?
Go for it.
No, almost. What'd she say? Young lady, what did she say?
good luck. She didn't say good.
No, she said, what the heck took you so long? And in a way, perhaps that's the message here. What took us so long to come to Pikeville? We see here an opportunity for business. We see here an opportunity for jobs. And I once heard the lady, Larson is her name, and her dad started the Radisson Group. And he said every single morning to his children, the greatest philanthropic activity you can have, the greatest philanthropic activity you can have is give somebody a job. And in a way, that's what this is all about. Creating jobs, sustainable jobs, and at the same time telling the story, the tourism story, be it the Hatfields and the McCoys, and telling the story. I know more, Carrie, about the Hatfields and the McCoys now than I care to remember. But it's a wonderful story. I mean, I wouldn't get this story in Decatur, Illinois. I wouldn't get this story in Peoria, Illinois, or would I? They don't have the Hatfields. They don't have the history of Eastern Kentucky. So that's a reason we're here. We think tourism is a great opportunity. Next one. What if? That was the theme of our symposium last year. What if? I went to the first SOAR meeting I have to tell you, Jared, I didn't attend any of the meetings, but I was there in the corridor, and I like to work the corridor. And I thought to myself, what can we do which would be different? What can we do which would resonate? And we thought, why don't we create a distillery? After all, it would be the first legal distillery in eastern Kentucky. Now, being illegal sort of has its flair too. And growing up as I did on the border between one country and another, we knew all about stuff that was legal and stuff that wasn't legal. But what about putting a distillery in Pikeville? What about possibly calling it Dueling Barrels? And you stop and you think about that, and you can see like High Noon and so forth. It wasn't exactly here. And the Gunslingers and the Hatfields and McCoys and all of that, but Dueling Barrels. And of course, barrels with the connotation of whiskey, and barrels with the connotation of the mountains and feuds and so forth. Will it be successful? We don't do non-successful things. Of course it'll be successful. Thank you. We did something in downtown Lexington. And there was a little brewery there for 100 plus years. And so we decided we would take that brewery and do something with it. And it happened in this way. My son, our son Mark, just finished university, and then he said, Dad, now what do I do? I said, well, it's about time you thought about that. He said, Dad, why don't I do what you did? And I have a master's and a PhD in brewing and distilling. When I was 26, I designed the Jameson whiskey distillery. I came to this country because of bourbon and so forth. So he said, I'll do what you did, Dad. So Mark has the same degrees. But he said, I need to get some experience. And so there's a little brewery downtown Lexington, and we went there on Sunday night. The guy said, we're closing, and we bought it. Children are expensive. So we bought the brewery, the distillery, and let me tell you, it has been a runaway success. We're doing things differently there. We use the bourbon barrel because it's only in Kentucky that you can make bourbon. And the law in Kentucky states it must be a new barrel. When those barrels go off and get finished, they go to Scotland, they go to the Caribbean, they go to Ireland, and they put their stuff, their whiskies, etc., into it. And we say, stop. Why don't we, in fact, intercept it at the posse, as it were, at the pass, and put our beer into it? And bourbon barrel ale has been a runaway success, and we'll be doing something similar right here. But more than that, because I'd worked in the bourbon industry for so long, they invited us to join the Bourbon Trail. And the Bourbon Trail has 500,000 people go on the Bourbon Trail every year, and it goes up by 15-20% every year. So our distillery is the only distillery on the Bourbon Trail which is in a downtown location. And your distillery will be the second distillery to be in a downtown location and will be on the Bourbon Trail. Ask my colleagues, if you go into our distillery, and you need to go to Lexington, you need to go to Lexington and check it out and kick the tires, as it were, and find out what is the place, what does it look like. It's fantastic. You go there on a Sunday, it's packed. You go there on a Saturday, it's packed. You go there on a Friday, it's packed. People coming in from all over the country, coming in to have the bottle signed, and our head brewer and our head distiller are here this afternoon, and they sign the bottles. It's a huge success. People come in, they leave with a Kentucky shirt, they leave with a bourbon barrel ale shirt, and they will leave with a Pikeville shirt in due course. 55 employees, we started with 5. Now there's 55. And let me tell you how dedicated these employees are. One girl, she ran in the bourbon chase this weekend. I mean, there's craziness and there's stupidness and stupid craziness. And one of them is to run for 200 miles on the Bourbon Trail. And you don't get a drink. I wanted to get to Alltech. Anyway, she finished the race, and then she heard that we were so busy. She works in the the visitor center. We were so busy that she said, I'll go over to the distillery and I'll work. That's the sort of people we're looking for. And that's the enthusiasm we engender. And we have a young man here tonight, or this afternoon, where's my only employee? I didn't say worker. Where are you? Where's my buddy? Where's the baseball player? Come on up here. This young man, Ryan, has been one of our finds. And again, he was introduced to us by James Hurley and by the governor. And he's doing a great job. And in 6 months' time, Ryan, I promise you in front of this audience, we will start paying you. So why not put something in a pikeful? Would this sort of look nice on Main Street? Is it going to look nice? Let me tell you, if Deirdre has anything to do with it, and she has everything to do with it, right, Sylvie, it will look nice. And there will be no change orders, and there will be no overruns and all that good stuff. It'll be right down to the dot. I trained her well. Not true. So this is what we have in mind, what Deirdre has in mind. And we're moving ahead with the help of Donovan, etc. So what will we be producing? We're wide open, guys, to what we will be producing. We'll have a beer, of course. We'll have a whiskey, of course. But it wouldn't be right if we didn't have moonshine, right? So we'll have a moonshine. And I'm sure some of you have good recipes. So, dueling barreled bourbon, a line of moonshines. Incidentally, we don't call it moonshine in Ireland, we call it pochine. A line of pochines. What else will we have? A bourbon. And all on the Bourbon Trail. We've more or less got an open invitation that when the thing is up and running, we would be the most eastern distillery, and they would love to have us on the Bourbon Trail. I think that's fantastic. And again, that shows you the embracing that people are giving this whole concept. When will we start? We're talking about autumn of 2015, and 2 months prior to that, we'll start hiring people. But we have a unique position because we actually are opening. For 25 years, we ran a brewing school in Lexington, Kentucky. And then for one reason or another, we sold off the brewing school. And now 10 years are up today. And so our brewing school will start again in Lexington, Kentucky. And for craft brewing and distilling, there is no school in the world. So we're opening one in Lexington, and that's where we will take our people from here and bring them over there and train them in brewing and distilling. Twitter and Facebook and all those other books and so forth, and that's where you can learn an awful lot more about what it is that we're trying to do. So there you are. Cheers, Sláinte, which is, of course, cheers, health in Gaelic. We are so delighted to be here. And more to the point, we're delighted by the welcome that we have been given in Eastern Kentucky. And I don't know if it's because you guys have looked up my record and you found that I was involved with something illegal, and if you did, tell me, because I wasn't. That must have been my brother. But whatever it is, you've made us incredibly welcome. And I just can't wait to get this project up and running. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Speak now or forever hold thy peace. Any questions? Yeah.
Are there other projects that are coming? Is this, I mean?
Yeah, so Sylvie said, are there other projects which are coming? Yes, of course there are other projects which are coming, but we are focusing right now on this project. Let's get one thing going, let's make it be so successful, but of course there are. We are not, think about it, we started in Lexington, Kentucky with $10,000, and my wife and I, and now we have 600 plus people in the state of Kentucky, which seems like 5 years ago, but it's not, it's 34 years ago. So of course there are other projects. What are they? Remains to be seen. Remains to be seen. But once you put it, it's all about being a catalyst. And as a biochemist, I can tell you, or you're a chemist or somebody will tell you, a catalyst is something that makes things happen and still stays the way that catalyst was before. So what we want to be in Eastern Kentucky is a catalyst. We don't do naysayers. We don't do energy vampires. We just get on with it. But yes, there will be other projects. Other questions? Interesting question. Are we going to age our products in Pikeville? Initially, probably not, because Bardstown has got ample storage for aging. We age, for example, our whiskies right now are aged, our bourbon is aged in Bardstown. However, our beer, our bourbon barrel ale, is aged in Lexington. So age, that respect, yes. The whiskey for 3, 4, 5 years, probably not. They're best. You know, let the people who are good at it do what they're good at. What we're good at is making great products. What we're good at is marketing great products. What we're good at is creating the story. What we're good at is generating jobs. Good question. Any other questions? Yep.
When does demolition and construction and reformulation of buildings next door?
So the question is, when does the demolition and construction take place? We're going through all that due diligence at the moment. There are buildings which are close to other buildings, and so one has to be very careful. But very shortly, probably by the end of the year, we will have that demolition. I'll be out there with a sledgehammer. Very shortly. Yes?
You had mentioned you have a master's in brewing and distilling. Can you tell us the difference between the Irish whiskeys and why you chose to come to Kentucky?
Well, I'll tell you the difference between the Irish whiskies and the Scotch whiskies. One is better than the other. And if you dare get the wrong answer, you're out. Even, do you know this guy here? Do you know him? Do you think he's a quality type of guy? Why do you hesitate? His mum came from my hometown, right? Grandmother. So he's quality, less quality. And now we got him. So what was your question?
Do you need a taste for the distilling?
No.
What is the difference in your opinion between the Irish whiskey and why did you choose to come to Kentucky and pursue bourbon?
Well, first of all, like I say, that's my background. And at the time, there was a lot of interest in creating, building the bourbon industry, and also the fuel alcohol industry, the gasohol industry. And so that's one of the main reasons I came to the United States. But to your specific question, you have Irish whiskey, you have Scotch whiskey, and you have bourbon. Bourbon is made from 51% corn. Scotch is made from 100% barley, and then they blend it. And Irish is a little bit in between the two of them, that they've got some maize, some corn, and they have some barley. Bourbon is an amazing drink. Amazing drink. It's gentle, it's light, it's got flavor, but doesn't have that heavy flavor that Scotch has. And bourbon is the fastest growing alcohol beverage in the world at the moment. 1.2 million barrels are put down every year of bourbon. You know, this is a great state. I'm not running for politics. But if I was, here's my pitch. What state in the Union is there, when you're born, the governor of the Commonwealth lays down 1 barrel of whiskey for you. Because there's 4.2 million people in the state, and we have 4.2 million barrels of bourbon maturing. So there must be a connection. Huh? Hope I answered your question. Any other questions?
Dr. Lyons, Andrew Carnegie said, take my people, or take my factories, but give me my people,
Yes.
and I will rebuild. You seem to have realized the value of good people.
Yes.
In areas that you locate in, what do you like for the education system to do to prepare a modern workforce to better build your company?
Great question. You know, it's all about people. It's not about factories. It's not about processes. It's about people. What we do is we educate our people. If you think about it, we're a biotech company in Lexington, Kentucky, where there are no biotech companies, or were no biotech companies. Yes, we had a great university, unless we have great universities around the state. So what we had to do is create our own workforce. Create our own workforce, educate our own workforce. And we have things like a mini MBA. And after 5 years working with the company, we put you on our mini MBA. And we will probably do something in this respect with Pikeville. But our mini MBA talks about what we do, what our marketplace is, and where we're going, and so on. You know what I'm looking for? I'm not necessarily looking for a person who has a PhD. In fact, I don't want a person who has a PhD. And I'm not necessarily looking for a person who has a master's degree. In fact, I typically don't want a person who has a master's degree. I'm looking for somebody who's open to new ideas. I'm looking for somebody with a fertile mind that we can build around. And we have 3,000 to 4,000 people who have fertile minds. And if you were ever to come with me, Barry, and went around and you meet some of our people, it's amazing. In Japan, which is a great market for us, we do not have one technical person. Not one, and they're the fastest growing company we have. We have somebody who sold computers. We have somebody who, in fact, ran a restaurant. Now, I'm not saying that's the qualification. The real qualification, and Ryan has it. I mean, he was a reasonable baseball player, right? At least he tells me he was. But Brian has an openness, and Brian has a hunger. That's what we're looking for. And you'll get that anywhere. You'll get that in China. You'll get that in Japan. You'll get that anywhere. But you have to now look after them and bring them into your family, and every morning they get a 1-minute charge, right, Ryan? Yeah. And that 1-minute charge would be something you're supposed to do today, or advice on something to do today. So education is important. Openness, curiosity is way more important. You've got education in this city, in this town. You've got a city, town. In Ireland, you can only be a town if you have a cathedral. Or city, rather. You don't have a cathedral, so you're a town. But you've got this great university here. You've got all the people we could ever want from that university. Okay? Other questions?
Are you going to make specialty bourbons, or are you just going to have one brand, like all the seems like all the other?
Okay, so the question is, are we going to have specialty bourbons or just one brand? No, we will make specialty bourbons. We have to make specialty. We don't have to, but I mean, the beauty of craft brewing and the beauty of, and we're not a craft brewer, we're a little bit bigger than that. The beauty of craft distilling is the ability to be able to create different products. You know, bourbon has to be in a white oak barrel, brand new. It must stay there for 3 years. But then after, you can finish it in a wine barrel, a sherry barrel, a Madeira barrel, you name it. And so yes, of course, and we can have double barreled and triple barreled. I mean, come on, double barrel, dueling barrel, doesn't mean, I didn't say dueling barrel, I said barrels. So yeah, we will make specialty. And watch the moonshine flow out of here. People come in, they want something which reminds them of whatever they were. And in Eastern Kentucky, it's about moonshine and the hills. And incidentally, all your music here, come on, give me a break. Your music is Irish music. But we allow you to call it bluegrass music. So there's a connection there also. Any other questions? Well, they say there's no such thing as a free lunch. But this is a sort of a free lunch in reverse, because they've asked me to, I hate giving away money. That's the Scot in me. But this is a check made out to the Ginny Wiley Theatre, or if the person isn't here, or Pierce Lyons. And I don't see anybody from Ginny Wiley, do you? And we'll split it, right? Do you? No, you don't. For $50,000. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Don't spend it all in one shot.
Well, first of all, again, another round of applause for Dr. Lyons and Alltech. So don't go too far. You know, he mentioned talking about James Hurley and Governor Patton, just to kind of bring it into term of why that they're actually considering Pikeville as well, is that I got a call when I was in Lexington, or actually it was in Frankfurt, at a Kentucky League of Cities event. And James Hurley just happened to call me. And he said, you know, I was just on the phone with Dr. Pierce Lyons, and we were talking about going running the next morning. And I said, well, that's great. I've been trying to get in to see him. If there's any way, if you don't mind to give him a call and see if he would happen to be available in the next week or two, I would appreciate it. So he hung up the phone. My phone rang about literally 2 minutes after that. And James was on the other end and said, you know, I just talked to Dr. Lyons, and he said if you can come now, he'll meet with you. So I left the board meeting, and I took as quickly as possible. I headed to Nicholasville. I walked in the room and was greeted by Dr. Lyons and Nathan Holman. And we sat there for over 2 hours talking about Pikeville in eastern Kentucky. Dr. Lyons was so kind to give me a tour of the farm and the Aqua Center and to talk about what Alltech is. We talked about Pikeville and some commonalities of Kentucky and eastern Kentucky and Ireland. So we formed a relationship at that point. And as we moved forward, Pierce called me on the weekend, and we were talking about twinning. And of course, I didn't know what twinning was at the time. Most of us know it as Sister City program. Dr. Lyons talked about, wouldn't it be neat for the city of Pikeville to kind of go back to its heritage and look at maybe a twinning program with Ireland? So I thought that was great. He suggested a town called Dundalk, which I wasn't really familiar with. But come to find out, it was his hometown. And I had the great privilege of traveling over to Ireland and meeting the people. And what I found was all the names that was just mentioned was a lot of the folks that I was meeting on my trip. It was the Colemans, the Blackburns, and with a name like Donovan, I was very warmly received. So I kept hearing about McGoy. It took me a while to figure out that it was actually McCoys, their pronunciation. So there was a lot of history. So on my way back, I picked Dr. Lyons up at the airport one day, and we toured Pikeville, and I took him back to the airport. And I handed him a gift from Eastern Kentucky, Dr. Lyons. And it was a Eastern Kentucky walking stick. And he was quick to point out that I was wrong. And he said, Donovan, this is a shillelagh. It's not Eastern Kentucky walking stick. And I said, a shillelagh? He said, yeah, a shillelagh. So within about 2 hours or an hour and a half when the plane landed, I got an email that gave me the whole description of what a shillelagh was. So I now know what a shillelagh is, thanks to Dr. Lyons. And then I also know when I was over in Ireland, they were it was a very warm reception. They're very happy people. My lovely wife, Debbie. Debbie went with me, and as we were meeting all the officials in Dundalk and Dearborn, and we were riding with Kevin Tuck, who works for Alltech, and what we found is that Ireland exports 92% of their food that they grow to other areas, but only 60% of their alcohol. So we figured out why they're so happy. But no, seriously. Dr. Lyons asked a question in the beginning, or he was mentioning all the names. Just out of curiosity, for those of you that follow genealogy, raise your hand if you have Irish heritage. Dr. Lyons, welcome home. And if I could, Dr. Lyons, come up. Mayor Justice and the Pikeville City Commission, if you could rise for just a moment. Dr. Lyons, on behalf of Mayor Justice and the Pikeville City Commissioners, I would like to take this opportunity to present you a key to our city. This key is symbolic. We are opening our doors for Alltech and Dr. Lyons and all the wonderful opportunities that are going to follow. Dr. Lyons mentioned about being a catalyst. They're leaders in their industry. We are blessed to have them. And again, I'd like to welcome you home.
Thank you. This get me out of jail? Or into jail? Thank you.
I have one more before we wrap up. I've got one more little presentation. As he talked about the Hatfield McCoys and the interest that he has with the feud and what it means, and you know, obviously, if you know the history of the McCoys, they came through Scotland. They ended up in Ireland before they ended up in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains. And so what better fitting or a gift than as you look at the dueling barrels that Dr. Lyons talked about. Dr. Lyons and Deidre, she's sitting back there somewhere. If you both would come up, I'd like to present you two portraits. This is from a local artist of the Hatfield McCoy.